Okay, so why is this important? Why am I doing this podcast? Why should people be listening to this? I think if you ask most people, romance is something that is on everyone's mind. When we watch our television shows, our movies, read our books, romantic twists and turns are oftentimes or usually uh, the most captivating themes within the story. I think that for a lot of history, romance was conditional. It was transactional. It was to fill a purpose. And in a lot of ways today, we benefit from opportunity, access to information, interconnectivity. You're not going to marry the person down the street anymore. You're not going to have a family friend that's going to set you up with an arranged marriage with their daughter. It's different. We, in many ways, are more free than ever. The things that we can do, our ancestors would only have dreamed of using their wildest imaginations. But in a lot of ways, the quality of our relationships has regressed. And I don't think this is all that surprising if we're really honest with ourselves. And my explanation for it is that we don't need to have the depth and virtue to hold together a relationship that we once needed. So adversity was a daily occurrence. You're trying to survive. When you are tested at that level, you end up becoming more. You end up becoming more capable, more supportive. In a lot of ways, adversity brings out the best in ourselves. And at the end of the day, the relationship that you've built with another person is magnified because of the difficult experiences. So today, when I can get my food on an application and have it delivered to my doorstep in 30 minutes, when I, can get online and swipe and talk to, a lot of different women at once, um, in a lot of ways, the world has become easier. And it has, in a lot of ways, made the world more difficult. And that paradox is not something to be ignored. So we can say that we all value relationships. We can say that in a lot of ways, this is the best of times. We are scientifically, technologically advanced beyond measure. But from a character perspective, from a values perspective, a lot of us are lost. And we're all kind of arguing on what those things should be. And I look to the political landscape here where you have half of the country blaming the other half of the country for things that if they were doing in their shoes would probably not take responsibility for it. But we're very good at blaming our neighbor. We're not so good at taking responsibility ourselves. And the problem is taking responsibility ourselves leads to growth, leads to discipline, leads to perseverance. So, is it really that surprising that half of divorce or half of marriages end in divorce? It really shouldn't be. My perspective on the dating landscape is we're heavily fixated on pleasure, attraction, novelty. So for men, you have some guys out there that are really, really successful with women who have the style, the the resources, the game. Um, they know what to say, how to say it, and the outcomes are very positive on the surface, which is you have a small number of men sleeping with a large number of women, not wanting to commit to any of these women because deep down, you have one of two things happening. One, they're concerned that giving up sexual novelty is going to be a problem, or two, they just can't find someone they actually want to be with long term. For women, attention is something that is readily available. You can make a social media page and have guys commenting all over the world about how beautiful they look. It will give women a short term dopamine hit, but it's not really what they're looking for. I don't think men and women are actually getting what they're looking for, but I think they are getting enough of what they think they are looking for to continue going down the roads that they're on and replicating their behavior that is counterproductive in the long term, but rewarding in the short term. But yet all of us care so much about romance. We do. Men sometimes were portrayed as being less romantic. Um, just caring about a woman's looks. But I think that's for a minority of men, and I think that sells us short for the most part. Um, Men want to look after something. They feel good. We feel good when we're protecting, providing, when we are harnessing a level of responsibility. It just it feels like we're doing our jobs. And men, we want to be respected. We want to go out and do our thing, and we get a lot of joy from doing that. We don't being a worthy man, a good man, a competent man, um, gives us a lot of satisfaction. And you need a woman in your life in order to be able to achieve that. I think for a small number of men, it's different in that they just don't want to commit. They will never want to commit. It's not who they are. They have seen probably within their families enough. There's enough, we'll call it trauma, to that is holding them back from being able to truly love another person. And that's really sad. And, can it be overcome? Yes. Is it often overcome? No. For women, romance comes, I would still say, easier. I think women, um, you can tell by the level of interest in romantic comedies being wildly favorable or skewed towards women. Um, Women love their romance novels in a way that I mean, I'm a romantic, but I don't get the romance novels. It's just, I can only do so much of it. I like it from time to time. But women are, you know, more romantic than men, I would say. So I think that there's something to be said for that. But um, collectively, for different reasons, everyone cares about romance. Everyone does. It's on talk shows. It's on, in movies. It's a topic of discussion among friends. Who is this person dating? How is it going? What's working? What's not working? And we all want to solve this problem. We all want to see I don't think there's anyone out there that wants to see, or if there's not many out there who don't want to see marriages flourish across the board. We may disagree on how to get there. And I think that that's something that needs to be explored and people need to keep an open mind to. But it's hard to go to a wedding and see, you know, empty down faces. People are there because they want to see two people coming together for the rest of their lives. It's almost across the board, um, an accepted conviction that lasting romance is beautiful and wonderful when executed properly. So we know what we have to do. We don't know how to do it. That's where we disagree. But we understand, I think most people understand where they're at, where we are at. They may have slightly different interpretations of the circumstances. And I would say more broadly, different ideas of what we need to do, whether it's policy changes, whether it's cultural changes. Um, I think on the right, you're going to see a lot of, well, we just got to get that nuclear family going again. We got to get men being men, women being women. You're going to get a heavy push into we need to go back to the way things were in the 50s. That worked better. The no fault divorce. It's the right heavily skews this to we need to go back to the way things were. Women can't vote. Is an idea that is shared by a reasonable percentage of men on the right. Not overwhelming, but it's there. And the left goes to just the opposite extreme, that men and women are the same, that there's no difference between us, that this is just that gender is a construct that is entirely dependent on socialization. And I've read their material on this. It's not entirely wrong in my opinion, but it's people don't like the gray, people don't like the nuance, and this channel is going to be entirely about intellectual honesty. It's trying to find objective truth. I have my preconceived ideas and opinions, but the most masculine thing I can do is harness my desire to win, which is I don't care what I actually believe. I will put that all to the side and do what's right for the group so that we can come home and be successful. So I'm going to be talking to people who are atheists, agnostics, people on the left, feminists, manosphere crew. I'm going to ask them questions that I think will show the vulnerabilities and weaknesses within their arguments, but I'm going to give them a chance to explore it and use logic and reason to overcome my criticisms. But I want to take a very, very broad perspective on this. I'm going to get ministers, psychologists, experts in the field. I'm going to get people who are dating in their 20s, 30s, married couples. I just talked to an 80-year-old widower last week. So all different ages. And I think that's the best way to do this. I think if it, you know, Christians, we talk about objective truth. And my perception of reality is it's not a matter of if, but how flawed it actually is. And if I'm going to get up here and say that, you know, I want to find, I want to solve the actual problem, that I want to pursue objective truth, I have to be aware that everything that I am saying and know and think that I know has a room for error. So why am I doing this channel? Why me? Why David Griner? Why did I decide to do this? So I've had phases of my life. I had my poker phase where, you know, things just came to me, and I played and played and played, and at times crushed it, and at times self-destructed. I I can't go back to that life. If you know, my dad asked me last night, he said, "Could you still play if you wanted to?" And I was like, "I don't think I can. I don't think I have it in me." There was a determination and a grit and a focus and a passion that I don't have anymore for that. Um, Between '08 and 2020, I bought every property that I could possibly find. Um, I leveraged, I took my money from poker, and, you know, I just was like, I just got to buy all the houses. Like that is just, I got to start all the businesses. I got to, you know, and it was wonderful for a time. You know, I woke up every day loving what I did. So much passion, so much determination. But the last 6 or 7 years of that was, or 5, 6 years, was, I don't know how to get through this. And, you know, I paid the price of that. My body deteriorated. Um, my health deteriorated. My body gave out. My adrenals gave out. I felt like I couldn't breathe a lot. Heavily medicated. It was miserable. 2020 comes around, and I'm like, I gotta stop. I need a break. I took a year off, joined a mastermind. The advice given to me was, David, go and travel, go and see the world. Like, go and you're financially free. Go. And I was like, I don't want to do any of these things. Like, I don't want to go sit on a beach. I don't want to, you know, have these epic bucket list adventures. My body is wired to work. It's wired to produce. But yet what I was going out and trying to produce was not fulfilling for me anymore. So I felt like I had to do it to be enough, but yet my heart wasn't in it. So I couldn't do it well. I was miserable every day, but yet inside of me was, well, David, as a man, you got to go out and and make money. Like, so I went sideways for a couple years. Um, I got sober. I got off meds. I got my health figured out. Um, I sat in the spring of 2024 in a micro tribe call with Brandon Turner, who's a pretty well known real estate podcaster. Pod podcaster, yeah. Um, and the guy's doing what he loves. You can just feel it. It's palpable. It's and he's like, David, you gotta find something that you're passionate about. You gotta find something that you actually are truly interested in. And his message to me was, you need to try and speak to the 12-year-old inside of you. And the 12-year-old inside of me is a hopeless romantic that wanted to keep mom and dad together, that wanted to find his own princess. And I'd had this idea of starting this podcast a podcast for a few years before that. What it was on, I didn't know yet. I thought I was going to do maybe macro finance, financial education, something like that. But to be honest, I'm not that interested in those things. I I keep an eye on it. I enjoy learning about it, but am I truly passionate about it? I'm not. In the summer of 2024, I was still unsure if I should start this because there's a desire in me to go out and produce, and I'm aware that creating a podcast creates a level of, should this podcast be successful, will create a level of status that will be attractive to women. And God judges the heart. He sees through everything. If we're going to believe that Christianity is what it is, we need to understand that every motivation when inside of us is going to be scrutinized. So when I started the real estate company, I had two really, really healthy motivations, which was make money to help people, make money to provide for a family. The third, which is one I didn't want to admit, which was to be good enough. And so, when I ended up accomplishing those first two goals, I struggled with the third, and whatever I did was never good enough. So going into this podcast, I had to be aware that should this podcast be successful, it would draw attention. And there's a side of me that wants that attention because deep down inside there's a piece of my heart that doesn't feel good enough. So I struggled with this in the summer of 2024 because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what to do. I saw a conflict within my heart. Why did I start to do this? Because I realized that the overwhelming roadblock for me in doing this was fear. So I was afraid of no one watching. I was afraid of looking foolish, saying stupid things. I was afraid of scrutiny, having my personal life examined. And that was the overwhelming roadblock for me. So when I became aware of that and came to terms with it, I knew it was something that I had to do. So I took some time. I finished out some research. There were some books that I needed to finish. I needed to finish reading the Bible. I wanted to meet with people. There were still there were some people in my life. I wasn't ready. I needed some more time. And I was working towards this goal of doing this podcast, but I wasn't ready. I had a real estate business that I was still responsible for. I had a girlfriend that I was committed to. But I am all in on this podcast. And I know you guys need this. I know the world needs this. I know that romance is something that we all want to figure out. And I can promise you that my heart is in the right place. That I want to see you win. That I want to see all of us win. That whatever this podcast is the best of me. It's my identity. You know, when you're so much of our lives are determined as from our experiences as children. And I'll say it again, my identity was, how do I keep mom and dad together? I love them both so much. And the most masculine thing that I can do is to become the best of myself for God's glory and not my own.